Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. What we're going to be doing today is going back to basics in the kitchen, okay? And I'm going to show you how I water bath can. We're going to start with tomatoes and making tomato sauce, okay? And I am going to give you my recipe on how I do these things. And in an upcoming video, I'm going to show you how I make my fruit juice and how I make my jellies and jams. Anything else? I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, mom brain. So let's get started, shall we? Make sure that your jars are nice and sterilized and clean, okay? For my tomatoes and my tomato sauce, I use pint-sized jars, and when you water bath can for pint-sized jars, it's 35 minutes. If you go to do quart-sized jars, it's 40 minutes, okay? So I went to Sam's today, and I got everything that I needed, okay? Now, because tomatoes and tomato sauce is acidic, you're going to want to use citric acid powder or lemon juice, okay? So I'm going to use lemon juice because I always have that on hand, and that's more of a something that I have than citric acid powder. So let's get started, okay? So get your tomatoes, okay? These guys, I love making my own stuff for my pantry. I'll tell you, it is, I feel more accomplished. I really do. I feel more accomplished, and oh, they just smell so good. They smell so good, so amazing. So I'm going to get a big bowl out, okay? I want you guys to see what I do step by step, okay? So, because I think it's important that you guys see what I do step by step. Okay, I'm going to rinse these guys off real quick. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to get the next batch going and get these guys prepared. I don't add tomatoes in with my sauce because I don't like my sauce to make chunky sauce, because if I want to have chunky sauce, then I'll have chunky sauce. But if I don't want to have chunky sauce, I'm not going to have chunky sauce. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's nice to have a variety. Do I make chunky sauce? Yes, I do. But when I make chunky sauce, I put like zucchini and yellow squash and mushrooms and tomatoes and everything else in between in my chunky sauce. So I'm not making any chunky sauce right now, but okay. And put the next batch into the bowl to get these clean. You're probably asking yourself why I felt compelled to start doing these videos again. Because I feel that it is extremely important for all of our pantries to be full, okay? Especially what we know now about what's really going on, right on? I'm just gonna throw these in that bowl. Oh. So, I think it's extremely important that we are all extremely prepared and that our pantries are full and ready to go. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to chop these up into a little bit less than bite size, okay? And then we're going to put them in our jars. And then you can add whatever seasoning that you want to add, okay? The only seasoning for me personally that I add is obviously the lemon juice, okay, for the acidic properties. And then I add basil and garlic. That's it. okay? So, get our bowl and our handy knife, and let's get to it, okay? So you can chop these up however you like, all right? You don't have to do it exactly how I'm doing it. Okay? A little bit smaller than a bite size. And when I get these guys done, then I'm going to show you how I do my sauce. Because I think everybody likes to know how an Italian actually makes their sauce, right? And every Italian does it differently, by the way, okay? Not everybody does it the same. But I do it the way that my grandmom does it, or did it. She has since passed on. But what I did was I modernized it a little bit because she used fresh ingredients from her garden from when we were younger, when we lived on the farm in Morristown, New Jersey. But because I can no longer garden because of my disabilities, I use not so fresh, shall I say, ingredients. But that's okay, because it still tastes amazing and it still tastes like home. Okay, now we want to get our jars ready. Okay, and we're going to scoop We're going to leave some room for water, of course, and our spices. Didn't put too much in, but that's okay. Now, you're probably asking me, are you measuring? No, I never do. And that is one of my downfalls. I never ever measure. Never. And I know it's a bad habit. I know. I get it. Ugh. Okay, so let's start with basil. I'm a huge basil fan, especially when it comes to my tomatoes. And I'm making a mess, but that's okay, because you're supposed to make a mess in the kitchen. That's how you know you're a good chef. Alright, now garlic. Now I'm going to get some water. I'm going to pour water in, and then after I pour the water in, I'm going to debubble. But my debubbling tool disappeared years ago. So I'm just going to use a knife. You can use chopsticks. You can use whatever, really. And then after you're debubbling, and you're almost ready to put your lids on, you've got to clean the rims, okay? With vinegar, white distilled vinegar, and a paper towel. Because if your rims aren't clean, it's not they won't seal right, and then you're going to have caca for food. All right. And when you're debubbling, what you're doing is you're getting like the gas pockets out of there, the bubbles, all right? And you're making sure there's no voids in there, because also when you're canning, if there's voids in there, the lids and whatnot can pop off, and that's not good. Now, I've got vinegar in here with a paper towel. So, make sure the rim, even the outside of the rim, like around here, make sure that's all nice and clean, okay? Now I'm not done by any means, because see all these tomatoes, all right? But I just wanted to show you real quick. Because I still got to get my pot out and everything else. Falling all over the place. I got wide mouth and regular mouth lids mixed in together. Okay. Now when you tighten your ring down, you don't want it to be super tight, okay? All right, now I'm going to get the rest of these jarred up and I'll be back, okay? Okay, now that the water in the canner is ready and is at a rolling boil, I'm going to put the jars into the canner and set the timer at 35 minutes because they are pints. And like I said, if you're going to do quarts, it's 40 minutes, okay? And then when I come back, I'm going to show you how do I do my tomato sauce. All right, hang on. Okay, so now let's get started with the tomato sauce. Make sure you have a nice big vat or a big sauce pot, okay? And let's get these open. Depending on how much sauce you're going to be making, you know, I mean, it's totally up to you. But me, I'm making a lot of sauce, okay? So I'm going to be filling up this vat with 3 large cans. Okay, now that I have emptied all of the cans of sauce into my vat, I'm going to start adding all of my spices that I like to use, okay? But first and foremost, let's go and use the lemon juice, okay? Now, because I'm making a lot of sauce, I'm going to use a ton of this. Just about, well, you see this. the entire thing of lemon juice, okay? Now, my second ingredient that I always use is sugar. Why? Because sugar takes out the acidic component of the sauce, meaning you're not going to get heartburn when you eat my sauce, okay? And no, your sauce is not going to taste sweet. Next, garlic. You can either use minced garlic, powdered garlic, however you want, all right? Now, my next favorite is basil. And then, of course, salt. I do not use a lot of salt. My next is onion powder. My next is black pepper. My next is parsley. My next is oregano. Last but not least, Italian seasoning, okay? Now, I'm going to bring this over to the stove and let it cook for about 20 minutes. Okay, the first batch of tomatoes are done. Okay, so we're going to get those out. Here they are. Tomatoes, basil, and garlic. So now we're going to work on the tomato sauce, okay? So let's get started with that. Okay, first we're going to start with pints, and then we're going to go to quarts. And like I said, even with sauce, just like with tomatoes, pints are 35 minutes for water bath canning, and quarts are 40 minutes for water bath canning, okay? So let's take the lid off and get started. You're going to leave about an inch headspace, same as with if you did the tomatoes. Oh, I got tomato sauce on my shirt. Typical Italian. Oh, yeah. Mom brain today, no kidding. And don't forget to clean your rims and your jaws, okay? Now I still have some pints over there, tomatoes have to be work at camp, so I'm going to cut these in the work at camp before I get started on my quarts. Alright, there we go. Alright, I'm going to cut these in a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to start on quart rows. George, stealing, I can find. I think this was big nice. The Hansel, listen. down. Alright guys, here is the final result of the quart size jars of my sauce. Alright, that is all for today's video. I will see you in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping. And as always, fear less and God bless. Ciao.